And so the stage is set. Welcome aboard the Azimut Seadeck 7, a yacht that's so special that for today's walkthrough, we've decided to go beyond the standard, where we show you the layout and highlight some of the features and pull back the curtain on Azimut internal design process. The Fun Island is a new way of conceiving the cockpit as an area that literally opens onto the sea without barriers. Here, the dining area is protected from the sun and a comfortable sunbathing area faces aft. Let me show you around. Starting with the outdoor dining table. Now you may have already guessed that it doubles in size by folding, which is absolutely true. We have two supports, which extend it all the way to the sofa seating. And that way we have a dining table large enough for all the guests on board. This perhaps is my favorite storage because we're lucky enough to have a place to keep shoes on the port side just ahead of our passerelle. So when you come on board, you can conveniently drop off your shoes before going any further. There's a gasket, which means that it's waterproof. I think that's important to everybody. But the second use of this, and it has a drain at the bottom, is as a cooler or fridge. So it's actually symmetrical, and there's one in the other side set up as a fridge right now. Moving even further, we continue to find storage where there appears to only be comfortable sunbathing. So would you believe that this entire section opens up quite easily, I must say, thanks to the pistons, and reveals a massive storage, big enough to keep your folding chairs for the dining table, big enough for all of your covers, and the guardrails to put on your wings, in addition to the privacy curtain that comes down together with the shade overhead. Guests that are enjoying the sunbed can benefit from this transparent but very sturdy division between the spray happening on the lower part of the bathing platform and this upper level of the Fun Island. So heading down to the lower portion of the Fun Island, the bathing platform, we have a set of controls that give you an idea of just how special this hydraulic platform actually is. So you press both buttons to activate the system, and then in order to send out the bathing platform, distancing it from the stern, we press the rearward arrow. Then, when it's at its maximum distance from the stern, we can press down in order to lower it to the level of the water, in order to help bathing guests who don't quite have the confidence to hop in the sea yet, to start to get acquainted with the water in a more gentle way. And you can lower it well below the level of the water for advanced swimmers who want to have a staircase down into the water, and for launching the tender, which you can place on that platform. In addition to your tender, you actually have an entire garage here with space for not only a jet ski, but over to the side behind these drawers, you have an additional area that can be used to store things like sea bobs, medium-sized sea toys. As promised, these two drawers have plenty of use as well. Let me show you. You have a release here, which allows us to pull out a full-sized grill. What do I mean by full-sized? In addition to two Kenyan modules, electronically controlled, we have these large stainless steel working areas for food prep and to keep everything you need at hand. As well, we have a similar release just below for this additional drawer, which provides all the space that you need, plus drainage. One thing that I really appreciate due to the elongation of the bathing platform is that even with your tender here, even if we open the grill, we still have plenty of room to walk around. In addition to the sliding door collecting all the way over to the starboard side, it then actually hinges out, as you can see. So we have a full width connection between the saloon and the outdoor portion of the Fun Island. So we have a sink above accordingly. Flip it up and it's ready to go. And down below, I promise a couple things that you are not going to expect. So you will have your kill switch for the battery, which can be convenient, and a button here, which actually reveals our third mooring station. Equipped only with your joystick and bow thruster controls, it's perfect for tight maneuvers, especially because of the incredible view you have looking down the stairway to the bathing platform and through the transparent parapet beyond the sunbed. Another pillar of the Seadeck series design is the aft-facing saloon, with large windows on both sides. On the Seadeck 7, the port one opens to let in fresh air and allow guests to move freely from inside to outside. There's also plenty of storage, most of it hidden away. Of course, you probably noticed this closet by the door. In addition to the shelves, you have a lot of your electronic controls here, like the audio and the AC, in addition to some of your switches for lowering and raising the TV. And for your shade outdoors. Now, the reason why we always put screens and additional buttons inside of these hidden away spaces is because they clutter the design. That way, it doesn't break the beautiful aesthetic that Matteo Thun and Antonio Rodriguez have crafted for the Seadeck series. And to starboard, we have another storage, even deeper, with shelves and one shelf dedicated to your glassware. Anti-rattle storage with rubber gaskets and foam that help to make sure that no matter what kind of weather you're cruising through, that everything stays silent and safe. Down below, we have an additional storage space, and this one has the controls for the raising and lowering mechanism for the table, in addition to a plug for your electronics. Although it's more common and more pleasant to eat dinner outdoors, when the weather doesn't allow for that, you can raise this table, more than double it in size, and eventually accommodate all 8 overnight guests here in the saloon. So once we've raised it to our desired height, you come around to the starboard side of the table and pull the release underneath to slide it towards you. Then you have a convenient handhold, which allows you to flip the table over and double its surface area. But we can extend it even further in order to accommodate all 8 overnight guests with this extension towards the forepart of the yacht. Now, we actually keep the extension conveniently close by, as always, in this ribbed cabinetry. As you can see, it's easy to access and not much setup to do. You just line it up, put it in place, and unfold it. Then there's a system of pegs which hold it in place. And finally, you have your full-sized dining table. As you can see, the distances have been studied just as much as in the lounge configuration. So every single guest seated at these comfortable sofas is in the perfect position to have a meal. Now let's begin with the storages that you couldn't possibly have predicted. The cushions. Underneath every single one, including this entire L-shaped sofa and the one next to you, is a large storage space. Plenty of room to keep provisions, like for example, water bottles, or even board games for use here in what can function as a family room. Look at the length and depth of that. Now, since we've got so close up with these materials, I want to point out just how touch-friendly the design of the Seadeck 7 really is. Because, as mentioned before, the absence of reflections aside from the glazed surfaces already gives us the feeling that it's safe to touch everything. There's no smudges, and it's really an experience for the senses because, as Matteo Thun says, you can basically appreciate this yacht with your fingers as much as your eyes. You can see it with your fingers. There's so much richness, and that creates a playground for the game of lights. You have LEDs creating a splash effect on the ceiling at one time, and then coming down over the materials in order to show you their texture and richness. Now, I want to show you what happens when you click the light. It's a little bit of a show every time you turn on the light. The lights turn off and on gradually with a soft animation. If you've appreciated the layout of the Seadeck 7 up until this point, well, actually the galley is where things get really creative, here in the forepart of the main deck. That's because just over 70 feet, the Seadeck 7 is right on the line between where owner-operators like to manage their own boat together with family and friends, and where people like to start bringing on board a captain and perhaps even a second crew member to help out. Either way, the layout of the forepart allows you to maximize privacy or communication, respectively. That is mainly through the use of this sliding door, which we need to unblock inside of the cupboard. You have a hidden place to unlock it, so now it can slide open and fully close off the galley. For the sounds and smells of cooking, it can be nice to insulate yourself a little bit, especially if it's the crew preparing your meals and ultimately driving the yacht. Plus, you can see here that this storage is not wasted. We have the dedicated storage for our extension of the table, plus our wine cooler and some deep shelves that act as your main pantry. Moving forward, before we get into all the details of the galley, I want to show you the other reason why this is such a well-designed boat for both owner-operators and crews. The side door. When you come around the corner, just on the other side of the helm station, we have a sliding door, let me just show you, which gives you direct access both to the entrance to the Flybridge on our left and all the way to the bow on the right. So the layout possibly is the most convenient and communicable one I've seen in this category. And you can see how it can give you perfect privacy because, for example, your crew is staying underneath the bow. There's a hatch which opens and the ladder that descends down, and you have 2 berths there in addition to a full height shower. Well, the crew can directly access the helm station, both interior and above, or lateral that we saw before, or they can go make their way to the galley without ever passing through guest areas like the saloon or the fun island, or of course the cabins below. It's really the perfect layout. So let's take a look, starting from our appliances. As you come in, you immediately have an ice maker. This is a necessity because cold drinks in Mediterranean summers are a perfect pair. And it's next to our oven, Miele, always the most advanced, efficient German engineering. And then above we have our custom fitted storage for our silverware. And down below, an additional storage. You see, not a centimeter is wasted. If there's a little bit of extra space, they're gonna give it to you in the form of a quite usable compartment. This one I would say is perfect for trays. Now, I skipped over one because it's actually quite easy to miss. Here on the starboard side, we have a rolling rack for all of your spices, your sauces, bottles, wine even. It's perfect and very spacious. You have another one on the other side of your oven. And up above, our Miele induction cooktop. Of course, your extractor above. And the Seadeck 7 goes even a step further and provides you with an opening section in the window. Proceeding with our galley tour, we come to the sink area. You actually have 2 separate areas, and the one on the left features a faucet dedicated to the water purifier. So with a combination of technologies, including UV light, this device is capable of purifying the water you have on board and thereby reducing the amount that you need to rely on plastic bottles. We have different settings, different temperatures. Then our second smaller sink, which is obviously not designed for washing dishes because it's too small, has a garbage disposal inside of it, so you can just drop your food in there and grind it up, no problem. Down below, we have our bin, plus extra room, which you could use for cleaning supplies. And next to it, another pantry storage. Here, pots and pans are the perfect proportion. And finally, our Miele dishwasher. And as you can see, there's room for virtually all of the dishes that you'll bring on board here to do in one run. But that's not where the storage stops. Of course, the storage never seems to stop. I believe we have a compartment up here above, so you can see, you know, when you're working here at the galley, whether it's the crew or your family, you're completely surrounded by storage. and accessible places to keep everything you need. Here you have a storage that is really important because this door is blocking the sun. Things tend to get quite hot here as the light pours through this incredibly large windshield with absolutely no divisions and perfect visibility. But that means that these surfaces get hot. Therefore, it's nice to be able to protect your electronics or whatever you might be charging in these compartments, or just keep things a bit safer from the incredible heat here on the seat. The fridge is actually a really large one. It has 260 liters of capacity. You can see there's room for a week of meals in here. And down below, we have our freezer, of course, a necessity. And that takes us all the way to the helm position. As you may know, the Seadeck series contains some of the most technological yachts on the market. Certainly the most technological in their category, and the depth of the systems on boards require a whole nother video to discuss, from the hotel mode battery pack to the full hybrid package to the different motorization options. But I will briefly say that in every configuration, the Seadeck 7 uses IPS drives, and therefore we chose the Garmin control and monitoring system that integrates perfectly with those Volvo engines. And we have our throttle together with the wheel next to our joystick. And in addition, in the case of windy days or an experienced captain who knows exactly how he wants to maneuver the boat, we have the bow thruster as well. Now, the design of this helm station really turns the corner in terms of the clean aesthetic, because there are very few buttons only dedicated to the functions that you'll be using every single day. Down below, we have a couple necessities tucked away. For example, it wouldn't be safe not to feature this control for the fire extinguishing system, as well as your VHF radio, of course, and your controls for the searchlight. Certain things just need to be analog. You do have an emergency panel here where you can switch off the systems that may need to be turned on or off in a hurry. So aside from the necessities, you use all the systems on board through the Garmin displays. There's even more storage behind the helm station where you can keep logbooks, electronics, trays, whatever you need. We have large, deep shelves here behind the twin pilot seats. And finally, the control panel with all your switches for the electronics is located here behind this panel. So a part of the galley that's easy to overlook as well is the storage actually found underneath these pilot seats, because there are two drawers here designed with wood and foam, perfectly shaped to match the Azimut proprietary mugs and plates and bowls down below. So as a result, you can be sure that you'll never hear rattling while you're underway, or even worse, break one of your nice pieces of china. And it goes without saying that this is the master cabin. The first thing that I want to point out to you about it is the unusual orientation of the bed. Whereas in this segment, many yachts point the master cabin's bed forward towards the bow, in this yacht, we have it all the way to the starboard side, looking directly out the port side hull window. And additionally, it gives us this large walkable space in the center and an extra comfortable sofa. Plus, there's plenty of storage hidden away here behind the sofa. And we even have a TV for nighttime when you can't watch the beautiful waves out the window. Now, one thing I want to emphasize is that the design that we were able to appreciate on the main deck in some ways become even richer down here in the master cabin, because as you can see, the work that was done with the materials and the styling, which approaches something like an Italian interpretation of Japanese minimalism, gives us an effect of comfort, simplicity, well-being, and balance, which is really hard to find. As you can see, with 3 doors, we're able to open the entire closet here, with a bar reaching all the way across for hangers, and the full length of it is long enough to support any kind of long dress or overcoat that you may wish to carry. It's an exceptionally tall closet. But that is just the beginning of the storage. we have drawers down below on both sides of the bed. This one, in fact, even has a secret second drawer inside the drawer. That's one of those solutions that lets you know it's definitely custom carpentry. It's not just about the amount of storage and the amount of features, but how they're distributed on board. They have to be accessible, easy to use, convenient. And Azimut has taken a really serious approach to implementing that. Here you can see you have a full-size drawer right next to the whoever sleeps on the right side of the bed. And then down below, a regular outlet plus a USB-C charger for phones. And you can even turn on and off the lights without getting out of bed. That's on both sides, by the way. So it's all about comfort. Down here on the lower deck, I would say that guests have an even richer experience of the interior design by Matteo Thun and Antonio Rodriguez. Look at the way that they've articulated the wall with this fabric feeling that even covers the lantern as well. Let me show you the bathroom because I think that the light design actually comes to its peak there. And before we get there, allow me to point out the way that the furniture appears to float due to the underlighting. What's really interesting to observe here is the way that a very simple material like oak, if left natural with open pores and texture, can become incredibly rich with detail when you add the right lighting. That is exactly what we have behind the mirror, a fading backwash lighting that highlights all of the texture of the natural materials and really invites you to touch it. Even in this bathroom alone, there are so many details that it's easy to miss one, but I won't let that happen. Let me point out this incredible bronze finish. It's matte, which gives it a kind of a warmth sense of touchability, and it matches perfectly with the tone of the wood and the matte bronze tinting of the glass. We saved the best storage for last, or at least the biggest. Underneath the master bed, we have an enormous space, wide, sprawling, with deep storages, and one that's perfectly adapted for your suitcase, even if it's the very large kind. Have a look at that. It's really an impressive amount of storage. And if you're wondering why we don't have storages here and here, it's because those are compartments, but they're accessible with drawers underneath the bed. So everything has been thought of, not a single centimeter wasted. Much like the master, the VIP suite is not afraid to defy expectations. Here we have another irregular orientation of the bed, this time set diagonally instead of directly into the bow. There are a couple different results of that I like. First is that it increases the amount of space that we have around the bed. Second, we actually have a view from the bed out some of the whole side windows, which is not common in a VIP where typically they're behind you. And third, of course, they've packed it with storage. So above the window, you have a place for very large things like blankets. Then down below here, you have your hidden TV, which deploys. And on both sides of the bed, you have your electric charging cable points and your light controls. So you'll never have to get out of bed for something dumb. Now, before we move on to the ensuite bathroom, I want to show you the largest storage, except for the bed, that we have in this cabin. As you can see, plenty of room for hanging, shelving, and even shoes down below. Now, let's get right to it. This is something that Azimut does, and I really appreciate, that they don't just give you a lot of storage, but they also organize it. It sounds funny to say, but these dividers that compartmentalize the space actually help us to keep track of our things and to stay organized so it's easy to get on and off board and go back home without confusion. Then, our ensuite bathroom. Much like the master, its warm spa-style design is sure to add another language to the already cozy interior of the VIP. Now let's go and see the other two cabins. This one, as you can plainly see, features one bed to host 2 guests. It has plenty of ceiling room and a large wardrobe. It also has its own entrance for nighttime use to the head right here. This head is also used overnight by the final guest cabin. In this case, the L shape allows us to have the efficiency of bunk beds and maintain the headroom of both guests. Plus, there's plenty of opportunity to place storage under those two beds, so it is the cleverest way to arrange such a room. As we head upstairs to the Fly, I want to show you some of the most useful storages that you find in the corridor. Here, a combo washer-dryer machine, and you could have separate washer-dryer machines if you wanted, but this owner has decided to have a large storage area up above instead. So, plenty of space for your linens and towels, everything that you need to share among your guests. And we don't make it far before we reach yet another storage here. This one, even larger. And as you can see from the depth and the width of these shelves, you could put pretty much anything you want. You could fit several large backpacks and even luggages. So as we make our way to the Fly, I have to emphasize just how high and protective the bulwarks are. You can feel safe here with small children or even pets because it arrives to such a high level. And I love the detail of the cork, which matches, of course, the decking. Sustainable, soft, and not too hot to the touch. So there's a lot going on in addition to the incredible width that we have here where two people can actually pass each other on the side walkways, which is not normal. Now, I guess you didn't expect the entrance to the Fly to be here, but I'll see you up there. So the reason why the entrance to the sun deck on board of the Seadeck 7 is located on the starboard side and not the cockpit as usual is because there is no cockpit on board the Seadeck 7. It's a fun island, and that means it has to be clear of anything that could obstruct the flow of life on board. So we had to move it somewhere else, somewhere even more convenient, especially for the crew to access via the side walkway and the crew cabin in the bow. So now that we're here, let's take a moment to appreciate that there's a full-size helm station up here with all of the equipment from the internal helm station on the main deck. We have two sturdy helm seats so you can enjoy navigation with the fresh air in your hair, and a full lounge here, not necessarily meant to be a dining, but something that's really designed around well-being, relaxation, and capturing the best views possible on board this yacht. Of course, when you see cushions on an Azimut, you might as well try lifting them up because chances are you have plenty of storage beneath. My favorite storage, however, is not one of these large spaces that keeps your covers and everything you need up here on the Fly, but is specifically that one that stores your fresh beers. That is a refrigerator drawer here located directly inside of this ottoman. How great is that? So before we head downstairs, there are two last storages to see up here. The first one, dedicated to the covers that you need for your helm station and the two pilot seats. And the second one is your large beer storage. This is a cooler with drainage designed to house some ice, and then you can throw your cans or bottles inside of there without heading back downstairs to refill. I'm gonna head downstairs and close the video on the bow, but I think it's best if you guys stay up here because the view is even better. See you there. The bow lounge, while certainly the most secluded and intimate space on board, is quite well served. As you can see, we have cup holders as well as storage, all with draining capabilities on both sides, as well as grab handles. And then we have these lovely pop-up lights that set the mood at nighttime. Additionally, it's possible to shade the entire bow area with a bimini supported by carbon fiber poles. And you'll see the sockets, all four of them, located here, here, and here. The last element, which you probably wouldn't have guessed about unless I had mentioned it earlier in the video, is that the crew cabin quarters is actually accessed directly through this trap door. That's what those two sunlights are doing. They're bringing natural light down into the crew cabin, which has two berths and full height shower. So it's a rather nicely positioned and appointed space for the crew, up to 2 members. The final thing to say is that we have 3 places to enjoy sunbathing on the bow during navigation, at anchor, all day long. And that sums up the Seadeck 7, the latest model of the Seadeck series, and certainly a fantastic example of the philosophy behind that series to be gentle at sea, to bring wellness and relaxation with you wherever you go, and to create a social and environmental connectivity that hasn't been found before on a yacht. If that sounds like something that interests you, I encourage you to head to Azimut Yacht's website and learn more about the Seadeck 7. While you do so, I'll enjoy navigation back to Varazze. Ciao!